Hello, and my name is Nico. Now, I'm going to make a video about how I'm feeling the sandbox is currently in the game. And I'm sorry if this is going to be a very whiny and crying type of video, but understand this much. I fucking hate this sandbox. And what I mean by that, dude, the camera angle is so fucking dumb. So I apologize, chat. Chat, dude, I'm not even streaming, dude. Okay, I'm not gonna really make any cuts, but what I will do is put gameplay over myself because I don't want to look at myself this whole time editing this video. So what I will do is roll some gameplay. Now, let's start from the beginning. What do I find to be the problem? And understand this is my personal take on this, and you can't even I understand you can argue saying that you don't agree with everything that comes out of this conversation, but what I will say is this is my personal take. So there might be a grain of salt with this, but it is just what it is. Now, I'm not going to try to look at stats. I don't even give a fuck about stats to begin with. See, this season specifically, I've kind of been playing completely differently. I have been just taking it slowly. Usually I'm intoxicated whenever I've been playing Trials over these last few weeks, and I've just overall not been enjoying the map selections Bungie's been giving us, which is, for some people, understandable. I don't like playing Solar Warlock. I think it's probably the easiest class in the game if you take away Prismatic to play. So I'm not going to sit there and play long-range scout rifles float with heat rises because I genuinely think it's unenjoyable. Just because you use some quirky shit with Solar Warlock doesn't make you the best player. It doesn't give you a reasoning to say other people's loadout are wrong. And that goes both ways. That goes for every way. This is the thing I like about Destiny, but this is also a problem. The thing that I like about Destiny is the fact that you can use whatever you want. But with that comes people whining about X and Y. Now, I only really have one issue with this current sandbox. And hey, look at me when I say this. The only issues I have is 340 pulse rifles, Prismatic. 3? I have 2 issues. That's all the issues I have. Oh, and roller, I'm joking. I don't have a problem with controllers. I actually do think using controller is the more obvious and smart move in this current sandbox. I don't give a fuck about input. I can't care less. If you're gonna listen to someone say one is better than the other, then honestly they're both fighting a losing battle. Because at the end of the day, you play with whatever you want. Is that understood? So, let's get into the video, shall we?
I miss the old Kanye.
Now, this current sandbox consists of a solid of 2 things. 340 pulse rifles. Actually, my bad. 3 things. 340 pulse rifles. You can probably guess which one. I guess auto rifles as well, so that makes it 4. Shotguns. And Prismatic Hunter, right? That's the things this current sandbox stand between. There's not really much variety, I'd say, totally, with the sandbox. But for now, this is what we have to deal with. And to be frank, I thought Bungie was going to be faster with patching X and Y. It's been 7 weeks and barely anything has been done to this sandbox. Now, what was patched super fastly was, as soon as it was mass discovered by absolutely everyone, they fixed healing, and you know exactly what I'm referring to. They said, guys, Red Death is intentional to be the most stable zimming weapon in the whole game. And what I mean by that is not the fact that you are zimming when you're using it, like you don't need to use it, but the fact that you basically get a zim for free. It's like the box comes in the package with the fucking pulse rifle. So that's what I mean by that. That was intentional. Kavastov was another one, which actually got slightly nerfed, but on mouse and keyboard it feels more stable now than it did before. They fixed the damage resist on Hunter Dodge. That's another one. And they've said they're going to nerf swarms, and so far, I don't think much is going to change. The problem right now is that Strand Clone Dodge with Slow Dodge, with smoke grenades, with swarm grenades, is the best combo in a whole game. I'd say the only thing that's good at countering this is probably Witherhoard. The other thing that's good at countering the same loadout is the same loadout. If you want to counter a Prismatic Hunter, you choose to go Prismatic Hunter. I think this is a very base thing to say. I think that's the actual best answer to give to anyone who thinks about this whatsoever. Because when you dodge, throw a swarm grenade, what does a swarm grenade track to? A threaded specter. So right now, the best things to counter a swarm grenade is a threaded specter. But you can't take away the fact that they buffed the strongest hunter melee in the game because not enough people played Void Hunter. Or the way I look at this is Bungie buffed Diamond Lances, Shiver Strike, Swarm Grenades. They buffed Smoke Grenades. I think that's about it. That's the biggest ability changes they did. Because they were giving it to Prismatic. No joke. They nerfed Knockout because they already know how broken it would be and is, like, total. So they kind of fucked over Titans by doing this, and I already know how this is going to end for Titans if they actually choose to nerf anything at any point at any time, is they're going to nerf Diamond Lances over fixing Knockout with Diamond Lance, right? So what's going to happen is, the current issue is, to my fellow Grenader Jake watchers, you know that Grenader Jake hates the aspect Diamond Lance because Titans get him, but why do they get him? Question this. Was it a problem when a behemoth was using this aspect? No, it wasn't actually at all. It's a problem because of how easy they are to make on Prismatic Titan, right? So, the way you make a Diamond Lance for free is you put on Peregrine Greaves. That's one of them. You don't even need Shiver Strike, but what people say, oh my god, you can go Shiver Strike into Knockout and double punch them. Most people don't even know how to do that, which is the crazy part. It's the easiest tech in the game, and most people don't use it right. But what you want to do is you want to break someone's shield any way possible to proc the aspect Knockout. Most people know that this is how it works. So the problem with a double melee right now is that you just don't break their shield. So the strategy is you want to probably shoot them once, punch, and you make a Diamond Lance. But right now what people are doing, and it doesn't work this way, is punch, because if you double melee them, you will not proc Knockout. A lot of people don't know this, but I hope this is a good advice. But if they're a hunter, they're going to dodge and going to suicide bomb you with absolutely everything they have, making this strat completely useless. And if you don't believe me that that is what hunters do, then you clearly haven't played enough PvP this season. So, the strategy is give hunters the Titans treatment. What do I mean by this? The way Bungie nerfed Titans was, if you put on the exotic, your class ability regens 10 times slower. Let me actually read this out to you so you know the cooldown on this thing. So, the way Titan Rampants work is, if you have the Barricade equipped, you have the exotic equipped, it increases your time, the recharge time, by 70%. 70. On top of that, they've done numerous nerfs to Titan Barricades themselves, increasing the cooldown just in general. 70% is a lot, and thinking that hunters are not getting that treatment for having two aspects that both enhances your dodge is crazy. It's like me saying, oh, I want to put a nuclear detonation onto my dodge ability, and I shouldn't get any punishment for that. I think it's a completely fine. Every time I dodge, I wipe out the whole lobby for breathing with no punishments whatsoever. The problem with the current sandbox is that the reward, the risk/reward is too low. You get way too high of a reward with too little risks. Literally all you can do, and this is the strat, I would recommend anyone who hates PvP to do this. It would make everyone's time way more miserable, and everyone is already doing it. The current population for Prismatic Hunter is 44% of the total player base. 44. Then you have Solar Warlock in second with 12%, Prismatic Warlock in third with 10%, and then you have Prismatic Titans in third with around the same as Prismatic Warlock, so 10%-ish, both of them. If my math is correct, 44 plus 12, what does that become? 56 plus another 20 from the other Prismatic subclasses is the equivalent of 76% of the population plays total of 4 subclasses. The rest of them are all distributed very, very unequally between each other. You go all the way down to the numbers of 0.3 and 0.4 with Stasis and Strand Titan. Titans are by far the worst option whatsoever. They have the worst variety of abilities and just classes in general. Every single one of their subclasses are really, really mid, and the best of them being Void Titan, which is also doesn't have a lot of variety anymore because of how they decided to nerf everything but nothing at the same time. What they did to Void Titans was kind of the dumbest move I've seen. I mean, it was needed at some point, but I think it was kind of unnecessary when they didn't even look at the issue. So, imagine this is the problem with the PK Titan meta, right? So, imagine you have a problem. You first dismantle the things around the problem before you even think about looking at the problem. So, what was the issue most people complained about? It was bubble. Okay, this one did get dismantled, so I can't even say anything about that. What's the second issue? Void Overshield. They did technically nerf them at some point by increasing its barricade cooldown, but this is so long ago and didn't affect the issue whatsoever. Then you had the third problem, which was target lock. So what you choose to do to target lock is first nerf SMG base, SMG damage, SMG aim assist, SMG range, PKs, and then nerf target lock to a point where it doesn't affect SMGs, except for lightweights at this point. Was that the plan? Was it to make SMGs really bad? Or, okay, this is the thing. SMGs are probably the most balanced weapon in the current sandbox. But you define what balance is to you, right? You might think a 340 pulse rifle is what you consider balanced. Having the same TTK as Prime Immortal, but with another 20 meters of range. Equivalent to like 45, because max range on Immortal was like 27, I don't even know. Right, so this is just an example. I'm just trying to give a frame on how I think, right? I think most primaries have around the same time to kill, but that doesn't mean that it's balanced. Having a 180 scout with a 0.67 time to kill, then you have 340 pulse rifles with 0.67 time to kill, and then you have something like a sidearm with actually a 0.6 time to kill. But what's the difference between these three weapons? Scout rifles have extremely long range, pulse rifles have close to long range, then you have sidearms that has super close range. So the problem with this, the only weapon that is punished is a sidearm. That's why you don't see them as much, because this weapon forces you to be close up to the target, or close enough to being an issue for shotguns, and etc, etc. Now, SMGs having a slightly longer time to kill than a sidearm is completely fair and reasonable. But then you also have auto rifles. A 600 RPM auto rifle has the same damage value as a 600 RPM SMG, making 600 RPM SMGs a waste. Because what's the benefit of running that when you have Kavastov? It's just an example. Or Summoner. The time to kill for Summoner is 9 headshots with a 0.8 time to kill. The time to kill with Shayur's Wrath is 8 headshots and 1 body with a 0.8 time to kill. Okay. The time to kill with a Kavastov is 0.8 with 8 headshots and 1 body, meaning Kavastov has a slightly higher damage profile than other auto rifles. At least that's what D2 Foundry is telling me. But literally, all you need to do to check that is go into a lobby and just shoot them. And if they're tier 2 or under, you need 1 less shot to kill someone with Kavastov. Meaning that Summoner, which is probably a great example, all you do is put Zen Moment, because Zen Moment is definitely the best perk on any weapon in the game at the moment. you get max range on this bitch because you have Zen Moment, meaning range doesn't matter whatsoever. And then you can put target lock if you really want to kind of make time to kill better for 5 resell and under, meaning you need to hit less shots than you normally would have. This perk doesn't really affect weapons like SMGs at all, like I said before. So the time to kill for Shayura's Wrath with target lock is still the same. It just doesn't affect your time to kill as much as it used to. Before, it used to be a 0.7 on the board, right? Even enhanced target lock doesn't really change time to kill. The only thing it does is bump the result tier from tier 5 to tier 7 with the 0.7 optimal time to kill. Everything else stays the same, which is completely fine. The only difference is you can hit 2 bodies and 7 headshots instead of 1 body and 8 headshots without target lock. So is it worth it? Probably, because most hunters are not playing high rezo, but you do come across those from time to time. Now, what I also wanted to say is a max range summoner is 37 meters. That is a solid of, let's get the real numbers here so you guys understand. Max range summoner is 37 meters. A max range Shayura's Wrath with Killing Wind, which is a damage fall off scaler, which means it increases your damage fall off past max range by a solid of 5%. It is not significant, but the range is 24.7 meters. Meaning, why would you use an SMG? If you take away Killing Wind, it's 22.5. Actually, this is wrong. If you take away Killing Wind, the max range is now 23.5 meters, meaning you lose a whole meter from this. I don't think this is necessarily the worst case. I don't think SMGs should have more range than 25 at max. I think that's absurd, right? And not to mention that having lower zoom makes guns worse at longer ranges, which is why SMGs are better at closer ranges. That should be pretty obvious for anyone. But enough of that. Enough of the rambling. Enough of the rambling about auto rifles compared to SMGs. I just think it's kind of crazy how you have pulse rifles and 180 scouts with the fastest time to kill besides sidearms. It doesn't make sense, because what you're removing is necessarily the risk to reward. You get insane reward with super low risk because you never have to engage in a fight where you might be a threat to death, right? It's probably one of the worst ways of explaining that, but that's basically what I'm trying to come to. And that was the problem with bows. You could double body someone without ever putting yourself at risk, which ended up getting them nerfed, even though bows are kind of still the same, but at the same time they're not, because you need to hit 2 headshots now. I think that's completely fine, but they still have the longest range of any weapon in this whole game, so you still have that risk to reward in some senses. The only difference is a bow's most optimal time to kill is going to be 0.88. Still meaning that scouts and pulse rifles have a more optimal time to kill than a bow. My point is not to say that bows needs a buff, because I don't think so. I think 340 pulse rifles shouldn't be able to 2-burst people. That's number one. That's my first hot take of this video, if people even say that it's a hot take. And I don't think a 180 scout should be able to 3-tap people, because you're not putting yourself at a risk whatsoever. That's the problem with Solar Warlock. You can take so many gunfights where you never have to put yourself at risk. But Solar Warlock is not even a problem at the moment because of Prismatic. Prismatic itself kind of just makes every other subclass kind of necessary to even have in the game. Because of how a Prismatic Hunter is set up, all you need to do is dodge, and you win. Right now, let's bring an example. If a Warlock or a Titan is trying to push in with a melee, so let's say Shiver Strike, Shoulder Charge, Lightning Surge, in any sense like that, towards a Hunter, they basically lose every single time. And the reason for this is because when you do this, all they need to do is dodge. The Shiver Strike Titan is going to fall straight to the ground and not be able to move while the suicide bomb is blowing itself up. And if the hunter is intelligent, all they need to do is throw a smoke and they are dead without them even shooting. They don't even need to use their grenade. All they need to do is dodge and smoke. And guess what hunters have? Every time you dodge close to an enemy, you get a smoke. Okay, now let's bring Warlock. Exact same situation. They slide in, all the hunter needs to do is dodge. Now let's bring a Shoulder Charge Titan. If they have Peregrine Greaves on, they might have a fucking chance. But even still, all the hunter needs to do is dodge, and they won't be able to shoulder charge because they lose their sprint, meaning they can't double jump, meaning they can't shoulder charge. It's not like slow removes your ability to use other abilities, because it doesn't. It just removes the option for you to sprint. That's what slow does. And since they have all these other things that doesn't really bring the dodge cooldown down whatsoever, they just have the advantage. On top of that, a dodge, which you can get twice with the cloak or with the exotic chest piece, I don't remember the name, you can basically get 2 dodges for free without any penalties whatsoever. It's just an example, right? I don't think the aspects need to be replaced. I just don't think it was necessary for Bungie to give them threaded specters on Prismatic to begin with, because let's be completely fucking real. Prismatic doesn't have any synergy whatsoever. The only thing they did was slap abilities that might be cool together, and let's hope people don't think about synergizing them with actual fucking ignitions, shatters, unravels, and etc., because the only way for you to get these things is by simply putting on a fragment. There's no synergizing with things. If you want to go into depth with different things like Scorch, if you're going to go into depth with Slow, Frost Armor, and making crystals, for example, you need to play on this subclass orientated for that subclass. So Stasis for Slow, Shatter, Frost Armor, etc., and it's the same for Warlock, or it's the same for Solar, and you get my point, right? There's no proper synergy whatsoever between the subclasses on Prismatic. It's just abilities to be the fucking annoying and make broken shit so people want to play the game and buy the DLC. That's honestly my take on it. I honestly think this whole thing was just a money grab. No joke. Because if it wasn't, the population would be blooming right now. People would be enjoying the game and saying the game is awesome and that everything that they added was insanely cool. But people are simply not doing that. And that's also why I'm making this video. It's not because necessarily I am fucking done with this game. It's because everyone is done with the game. To show an example, last season, when the population dropped under 10,000 people instead of trials, I would look at that as a big red flag. I would say this is a problem. Bungie, this is actually a really bad problem because no one's playing. Today, when I played trials, there was a total of 3,300 people. That's a third of what I thought was a red flag. A third. There was a solid of 103 trio games currently going on when I was looking at the stats. Now, I'm not going to say Bungie kind of did the same mistake they've done over again, but they did. Let's look at a great example and rewind back into time. 30th anniversary comes out. Everyone thinks the ability changes are awesome. Bungie didn't even touch any weapons whatsoever because there was no need to, even though guns were definitely really, really broken. Now, what they did was they made sure that all the 2.0 subclasses were balanced to the state of the game, so everyone could enjoy the game as much as they wanted without feeling the need of getting bullshitted. It's probably the best time ever to this day to play PvP. This is not an over-exaggeration, and I think most people will agree with me on that one. At least I would say that was the best time, because there's other key aspects to 30th anniversary making it awesome. One of them is the fact that they didn't throw 50 different matchmaking filters into every single PvP playlist. The worst thing that was currently going on in the game was Flawless Pool. and Bungie was still trying to figure out how to make that not a big problem. Because what would happen is, either you wouldn't play up until Sunday, or you would card manipulate, making sure that you could do carries, etc., etc. Streamers always find a way to ruin things, and that's just a common fact, because they want to do what they get paid to do without any problems. So that's either leaving games because they don't want to play against the enemies, leading into now we have account suspensions instead of character suspensions for leaving 2 games, or it would be not keep resetting your card over and over, so you would only match people on win 1. Actually, no, that's not the case. So you would only match people who were not in flawless pool on Sundays. And then the last card they do, they would go flawless. It's just an example, right? Streamers love to ruin every single PvP playlist whatsoever. And even if they're not streamers, there's still times you could just abuse this. But most people don't give a fuck about a number going up, aka their oh, never mind, I'm playing Destiny 2. Anyway, so there was not 50 different matchmaking filters in every single playlist, making it awful to play, making it actually insanely nice to play, thinking that people had proper connections to you, and you wouldn't have to worry about sitting in queue for 10 minutes just to get into a 6v6 quick play lobby. That's one. Guns felt fairly nice. They just nerfed shotguns, which was probably the biggest change they did to 30th anniversary weapon-wise. They nerfed slide when shotgunning, so you couldn't just monkey in as effectively, but they later removed this change and they made them how they were beforehand, because shotgun counts were actually dropping. People were using shotgun less, and that's usually a red flag for the special economy wise. Then they tuned every 2.0 subclass and stasis to be balanced, at least the most balanced they could be in a current sandbox like that. And people genuinely thought it was a good change. People were enjoying it. But then the next DLC came out, Witch Queen, completely saying Bungie doesn't give a fuck. First of all, they started pushing out a long-range meta because people really fucking asked for that, with dogshit maps because people wanted new maps. So they gave us Disjunction, they gave us a pulse rifle meta, 340, no time to explain if you remember that one. And they gave us Cathedral of Dusk, which is another map people begged for on their hands and knees. And they gave us Vostok. That's the one. Another map people fucking wanted. Now, these maps are probably the least favorited maps in the whole game. And generally, I don't think that people enjoy it. I'm happy that I'd never see Cathedral and Disjunction in the pools, but I see them from time to time. Oh, fuck, and then I forgot. Meltdown, which is not necessarily a bad map, and Multiplex. Yeah, fuck you too, Bungie. But Meltdown was an okay map, and Bungie loved pushing that out into trials. I don't have a opposed opinion to that, so I can't say much. But Void 3.0 comes out, Solar 3.0 comes out, and then Arc 3.0 comes out. And guess what happens every time? Void, Omni Oculus, Void Titan, fucking shenanigans. Solar, infinite fucking healing for the sake of the earth and make sure that everyone can suck each other's cocks while literally being immortal gods. And Arc, you throw a fucking grenade and you nuke the whole team 10 times over like you're bombing Iraq. That was that. And then Strand came out, and I generally didn't really have any problems with Strand until they released Threaded Spectres. But then March 5th comes around, hoping that everything is going to change. They changed the weapon system to feel more balanced to the sandbox we're in, making every weapon kill slightly slower, abilities tuned down more, and overall, it seems like the game is being revived. The final shape hypes up even more. Prismatic looks super cool and kind of mid, and then it comes out and here we are. The game is not saved, and if Bungie really wants people to enjoy this game, they have a lot of fucking work to do. They can't be rolling out 3 fucking PvP changes to fix this dogshit fucking sandbox we're in. I haven't seen anyone say that Prismatic Hunter is fun to play against or enjoyable to play. I think it's the most brain-dead dogshit they've come out with, and to be honest, it's a money grab from my perspective, and a subclass to try to make sure that everyone is as equal on a battlefield as possible, reducing skill gaps to an absolute minimum. Because honestly, you can put someone who has 5 fucking brain cells, I wanted to say meaner words, but I forget I'm not on Twitch, So you can put someone with 2 brain cells and give them Prismatic Hunter, and they're probably gonna play the same performance as you are. Literally, you can give someone who has 15 different mental disabilities and also 5 physical ones, and they will still play at the same playing field as you do, without any rewas, without any zims, without any cheats. They don't need that because they have Prismatic Hunter. Is this sandbox saved? Honestly, I'm kind of just over-exaggerating a little bit. I've been enjoying the funnel shape, at least making quirky builds for myself, but playing against literally only one fucking playstyle is getting boring. That's my personal take. And if you have any opinions to share... Oh fuck, I forgot! Then it's matchmaking. Hello, this is Editing Nico. This is actually the next day of this recording, but I wanted actually to touch on something that I kind of thought about. And I have a perfect clip for this, and it's the Fizzle clip when I played him instead of Iron Banner. One thing that I noticed is 2 weeks of Iron Banner, is already a bad idea. No one really asked for that whatsoever. And, the biggest problem with Iron Banner wasn't even the fact that we had it for 2 weeks, it was the connection between players. It was awful. And look at me when I say this. It was awful.
That brother's lagging so bad. Or thank you for the raid, sorry. Oh.
I'm calling it. 10 seconds. Bosses happen.
What is he doing? Is he lagging out? Whoa! What? What?
So, the game felt fine, all the way up till Iron Banner came out. That's when I started noticing how bad it was. I can't tell if it's because people are playing the game less, but it's probably about a population drop. Not just that, for some reason the connection between matches, the quality in the games, have fucking plummeted to the fucking moon. That's up. Have plummeted to the bottom of the ocean. For some reason, it feels like I'm playing with a fucking Zimbabwe internet connection to someone who is literally playing from Mars. I don't know what the fuck Bungie is doing with the matchmaking, but for the love of God, stop it. Give me fucking CBMM so I can play against people without making sure they're rubber banding 50 fucking different ways on my screen at the same time while shoving 15 threadlings down my ass, up my ass, and make sure that they don't shove a fucking barrel of someday down my throat. Does that make sense? I really don't like playing like that. Oh, I forgot. Also, they can punch me 30 different ways from every single angle of my body while I am just looking, watching it all happen. And it happens in a fucking blink of an eye, so I can't even say, oh, let me counter that. Because honestly, if you think you should just counter that, you are mentally fucking Anyway, if you have any opinions to share about this sandbox, I would love to hear your opinion. All opinions are, of course, allowed, and there's no reason to shame you if you enjoy this. Personally, this is not my type of tea, and I'm sorry for a very cry video. I will make sure that I upload the funny, laughable Nico videos that I usually do. Anyway, I love every single one of you, and your support is all I need. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to catch me live crying even harder, follow me on Twitch. I enjoy streaming and talking to you guys every single day. So, I'll see you there or in my next video. Anyway, I love you, and I'll see you around.